I work as a waitress at one of the most expensive restaurants in New York City, the kind of place where a single bottle of wine can eclipse my rent. Most nights, I serve celebrities and CEOs. I'm professional, invisible when I need to be, the way good servers are taught to disappear. 3 months ago, I was on a double shift when Adrian Keller walked in. If the name sounds familiar, it's because he's worth billions, a self-made tech mogul who shows up on every list that measures fortune. He requested a quiet corner and, oddly, dined alone. I brought water and took his order: filet mignon, medium rare, asparagus, a glass of red. He seemed older than his photographs, not in years, but in weight. Sad, I thought. As I set down the bread, his jacket cuff shifted, and I saw the tattoo on his wrist, a small red rose whose thorns curl into an infinity symbol. My heart stopped. My mother has that same tattoo in the same place. I've asked her about it for as long as I can remember. From before you were born, she always said, and nothing more. I did something I never do. Excuse me, sir, I said. My mother has a tattoo exactly like yours. What does it mean? He went still. What is your mother's name? Julia, I said. Julia Rossi. The wine glass slipped from his hand and burst on the tablecloth, a red bloom spreading like a wound. He stared at me as if I had resurrected someone. Then he pulled a wad of hundreds from his wallet, dropped them on the table, and left without his dinner. At 2 a.m, I texted my mother, "Do you know an Adrian Keller?" But she didn't respond. I Googled him and read about the lonely genius who never married, always photographed without a date. In one image, the tattoo showed clearly at his wrist. The same rose, the same thorns. My mother is dying. Stage 4 breast cancer, metastatic to her lymph nodes and liver. The doctors gave her a year 3 months ago. She can't work now. For 24 years, she cleaned the homes of the rich in Manhattan and Brooklyn without complaint. I've been covering what I can with double shifts, but even on lucky nights, the tips don't meet the bills. I visited her at Mount Sinai the next morning. She was awake and smiling her tired smile. We talked about the television in the room, the nausea meds, the cardboard food. Then I asked, "Do you know someone named Adrian Keller?" Her face drained. "Adrian was at your restaurant?" "You know him?" "I knew him," she said softly. "A long time ago." Before she could say more, my manager called to say a man at the restaurant was asking for me, Thomas Beck, Adrian's lawyer. 30 minutes later, he found me in the hospital cafeteria, kind and efficient in a gray suit. He asked for my mother's full name and condition. Then he said, "Mr. Keller would like to see her, with your permission." That afternoon, Adrian arrived at room 407. I warned him, chemo changes people. He only nodded and went straight in. When my mother looked up and saw him, something young and bright broke through the illness in her face. He sat beside her, found the faded rose on her wrist, and they cried. I waited in the hallway for 2 hours and 7 minutes, counting. When he came out, his eyes were raw. "May we talk?" he asked. In the cafeteria, under buzzing lights, he couldn't stop studying my face. "When is your birthday?" he asked. "March 15th. "What year?" 2000. He closed his eyes. When he opened them, I saw fear. "Your mother told me she left for Italy in 1999, and a month later learned she was pregnant. She came back to New York in January 2000 to tell me, 7 months along, but I'd moved in December for a better job. She searched for 2 weeks and couldn't find me." The air tilted. "Are you saying, we think I'm your father?" I needed to hear it from my mother. She told me everything. Meeting Adrian in 1999, falling in love, her grandmother's stroke, pulling her back to Italy, the discovery of the pregnancy, the plan to tell him in person when she returned. The old landlord never passed along Adrian's new number, and Adrian was working around the clock at a midtown startup to save money so he could fly to Italy and bring her back, or go there for good. "We missed each other by a month," my mother said. A month. Adrian and I agreed to a DNA test. 3 days later, he stood outside room 407 with an envelope. Inside, 99.9% probability of paternity. He handed me the page with steady hands and wet eyes. "Lucia," he said, my name suddenly full of history, "you're my daughter." Everything after that moved fast. Adrian called my mother's oncologist, Dr. Daniela Hill, and offered to cover whatever it took to get her into a promising trial at Memorial Sloan Kettering private room, private nurses, immunotherapy that insurance wouldn't touch. He paid off her existing medical debt and my rent for a year. "Go back to school," he told me. "Your mother wants that." I had left NYU when she got sick. I protested, and he said, "It's not too much. It's 24 years too late." Every day he came to sit with her. They spoke the language of people who lost decades and were racing to return each one to the ledger. Stories about lonely nights and long days, about my first word and his first million, about how they both stayed alone because no one else ever felt like the other. They touched the old roses at their wrists and shook their heads at the cruelty of timing. 3 months into treatment, Dr. Hill called us in. "The tumors are shrinking," she said. "We're calling this a remission." My mother cried. So did I. So did Adrian. "I can't promise forever," the doctor added, "but you may have years." 6 months after the night in the restaurant, Adrian proposed in the hospital room on a quiet Tuesday. No orchestra, no fireworks, just a man who should have asked 25 years earlier. "Julia Rossi," he said, "will you marry me?" She said yes. And a month later, they stood in the hospital chapel, my mother in a simple white dress, Adrian in a suit, with a handful of nurses and friends looking on and promised forever. Time, for once, bent in our favor. 2 years later, my mother is still here. The cancer is managed, not cured, and she returns to Sloan Kettering once a month. The rest of the time, she lives. She and Adrian bought a house on the Connecticut coast because she always wanted the ocean within earshot. When she feels strong, they travel. Italy to see the village where she grew up, Germany for the city where he learned to be lonely and ambitious at once. I went back to NYU, finished my degree, and now work at a publishing house. Last week, I had dinner at their place. We ate on the porch and watched the sun slide into the water. I caught their hands, left and left, the 2 small roses showing in the evening light faded now but unmistakable. "Do you regret it?" I asked. "The tattoo?" Adrian said. "Never. It reminded me she was real." "I thought about removing mine," my mother admitted, "but it was all I had of him." "And now?" I asked. "Now it's a promise kept," Adrian said. My mother squeezed his hand. "L'amore è bello ma fa male," she murmured. "Love is beautiful, but it hurts." "Ed è per sempre." And it is forever. They didn't get a fairy tale. My mother is still sick. We all know what the disease will someday demand. But not today. Today they hold hands, 2 faded roses catching the last light. Today, after a missed month that stretched to 25 years, we have a family. However long forever turns out to be, we're in it together.